Please give me 2 minutes. The link is ready. I'll just post the link. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, madam. Yes.
Okay, so I think that we can start the session.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all to this session on behalf of St. John Institute of Pharmacy and Research. We have a wonderful speaker today, and I'm delighted to introduce him, Mr. Amit Shivle, who has kindly agreed to give his talk on pharmaceutical project management and introduction for our students. Mr. Amit Shivle is a project liaison manager at Sandoz, a division of Novartis at Hyderabad. He has 14 years of industrial experience responsible for project and program management, regulatory deficiency management, co-development, integrated project management, and formulation development. Prior to Novartis, Mr. Amit has led project management at Aurobindo Pharma and has worked in top-class companies like Dr. Reddy's Laboratories, Wockhardt Research Center, Mylan Laboratories, Sun Pharma Industries. Mr. Amit obtained his Bachelor of Pharmacy at the University of Pune and got his M.Pharm degree at the University of Mumbai. Some of his career milestones include managing solid oral, injectables, and soft gel formulation development, and he has also coordinated for the pharmaceutical markets in US, Europe, Australia, Canada, China, Russia, South Africa, Brazil, and Japan. Let's all join in welcoming Mr. Amit Chevle and listen to an exciting webinar from him. Now, I would like to hand over the session to you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Dilab. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Myself, Amit, as introduced by Della. I'm very much thankful to the institution for giving me this opportunity to talk with you, interacting with the new generation, the B Farm and M Farm students has been always, an exciting opportunity. Myself, Amit, I'm working at Sandoz, which is a Novartis division. I work at Hyderabad, based at Hyderabad. I'm a project liaison manager. I'm responsible for as an interface between R&D and plant, which is located at Kalvi location, Mumbai. Before I start and share my screen, I'd like to thank your principal, Dr. Savita. I'd like to thank Ms. Della. I'd like to thank Deepak, who has basically given me an opportunity. He interacted with me. He's my friend. Thanks for facilitating this. So I'll share my screen. Please let me know once you start seeing it. So if someone can confirm me if you can see it, so that I can start.
Yes, sir, we can see.
Thank you so much. So hello everyone, my topic is pharmaceutical project management. It will be just an introductory session. I will not try to make it like overwhelming. I'll just try to keep it very basic, so that the B Farm, like understanding the audience, the B Farm and M Farm students will be able to connect with this. So my session will talk about project management, but at the same time I'd like to take this opportunity to tell you about different departments which are there in pharmaceutical industry, as well as their functions and how a generic pharmaceutical industry works. So generic or innovator pharmaceutical industry, the basic modus operandi for the management or for the organization run, that remains the same, but there are few differences. As I work for a generic industry, I'll talk more about per se with respect to generic industry. So starting my presentation, this is first time I'm interacting with academia, so please bear with me if I go wrong, and please feel free to ask any questions in the chat box. As I discussed, it was told that the audience will post their questions in the chat box, or at the end of the session also we can have a question and answer session. So okay, there is some technical issue, it seems. One sec. So yeah. So yes, so here I'm mentioning basically different departments which are there in a pharmaceutical organization. So if you can see the screen, there are departments like FD. So whenever a product comes, then the formulation development part is done by the formulation development department, and the analytical part of that formulation is done by analytical department. When the product goes for biostudies, the coordination for the biostudies, it is done by the clinical department. I'll touch in details while I talk in next slides, but just an introduction to all these departments. Then once the product is basically developed, then there is a tech transfer to the plant. So manufacturing science and technology and analytical science and technology, these people take up the activities for the technology transfer with respect to production and with respect to analytical methodology transfer. Then there is a supply chain department who takes care of uh, basically the procurement of the materials or the sales, launch, everything. There is, of course, finance department who takes care of the budgeting activity, managing the finances for the project. There is a department, portfolio management, who is responsible, which is responsible for product selection, keeping an eye on the market scenario, keeping an eye on the business case of the project. So whether to select the product, to continue the product, or to kill the product, all these decisions are made primarily by portfolio management. Then we have intellectual property management, that is a IP department who takes care of the patents, different patent scenarios, like if there is any patent obligation, then IPM department basically tells like what kind of a filing we can do, whether it's a para 1 filing, para 2 filing, para 3 or para 4, what can be the different approaches, so that we do not stuck into litigation and paying hefty amounts of fees or penalties to the competitor. So I understand for the third year students, probably I'm not so sure whether like they may not able to connect with every jargons what I'm using, every terminologies, but that is absolutely fine. I'll try to keep it more simple. But this particular slide, like for the MPharm students, I feel like as they're completing their masters, they should be aware of the different opportunities they'll be getting once they pass out. And even the BPharm students also, they will also get different opportunities. Try to go for the post graduation, that is more preferable. It can be MBA, it can be MPharm, it can be some other courses. That also we'll talk at the last section of the presentation. And yes, there is a department production. Like once the product is developed, then at the commercial scale, the product needs to be produced. So the tablets, capsules, injections, whatever we get in the market, that is basically produced at the GMP facilities. So from R&D to production, the transfer is taken care by ASAT and MSAT department, what I told you. And there are a few other departments like process development department. There are departments like admin. There are departments like launch chain management. So all of them I have not included. But here the department which I have highlighted in red, that is a project management. So you may feel like, if there are so many departments and so many departments are taking care of their respective functions, then what is the need of having a project management? So project management, I tell you, it is few years back, this department didn't exist, or even the existence was at a very superficial level, not a deep diving in the departmental functions. But now, considering the complexity of regulatory, complexity of marketing, complexity of development, so there are so many departments have been formed. So there should be a communication channel between these departments. There should be a like a department who takes care of, there is no attrition between the departments, and basically for the coordination and for the communication with the management, like how are we doing on the projects, what is the status, are we able to develop the product or not, what is the scenario with respect to budget, what is the scenario with respect to expenses, spends, all those things, like basically coordinating with all these departments. The project management does that role. It's a complementary function. It's like a shock absorber thing. So a vehicle which is not having any shock absorber, basically it can still go to miles, but the commuting will not be so smooth. So project management is basically a shock absorber, basically a complementary functions which makes the operation smooth. So without further ado, we'll go to next slide. So, okay, a definition of a project management. So project management is the application of processes, methods, skill, knowledge, and experience to achieve a specific project objective. So if you talk about processes, there are don't think about these, like there are 49 processes. There are different methods like Kaizen, Kanban, Six Sigma, Scrum, Agile. There are different ways of doing project management. But the most important and the most relevant is having a basic skill within you, the skill of management, the skill of communication, and of course, like, it's not only about talking, it's about the knowledge also. And how will you get the knowledge? The knowledge will come from the experience once you start working in the field. So project management is like, they do offer it for the freshers, but with my experience, what I tell, like, the people who are experienced in the industry, who know how the business is run, those can make a better project management, better project managers. Definitely the accreditations, the different certifications, everything is like, that is an add-on, but the basic skill and knowledge and experience, that plays a big role in project management. So, okay, so these are two jargons, two terminologies, projects and operations. So what is the difference between project and operation? So project is a temporary endeavor to get a finished product. It can be a service or it can be a solution. And operation is something which is a ongoing and repetitive process. So for you, just to correlate, I'll tell, like, now you are admitted for B Farm or M Farm. So pursuing your M Farm, B Farm, it's a project. But for the institution, for the St. John institution, getting more and more students, running the institution, adding more and more courses, conducting these webinars, all these things, like, that is an ongoing and repetitive and evolving process. So what is ongoing and repetitive? It's an operation, and which is having a limited time span. It's a temporary. So temporary is the thing. So a limited time span thing is basically a project which will yield you a service, a product, or a solution. Okay, fine. Then pharma project life cycle. Okay, so in the department slide, I told you about different departments and, like, what are their functions. But sequentially, if I like to put it, and just bear with me for this particular slide, maybe like master students will find it little relevant, and for B Farm students, probably it may take some time to understand. And I have deliberately put the jargons over there so that at least you can hear them, and maybe later, once you revisit this particular sector post this webinar, maybe like you'll be able to correlate. So project selection is basically done based on, like, what are the suppose, like, for the generic pharmaceutical industry, how are they selecting a project? They see what is the business case for the project, how much money it will yield, when can we launch the product, and how much money will it incur. Just a superficial idea about the project, and accordingly the project is basically presented to management, top management, and if the top management agrees, then the project is selected. Then after getting the project is referred to different departments, like formulation department, analytical department. These departments just tell the feasibility. Can we take up the product? What is the technology required? Suppose if it is a weight granulation product, so it will require a RMG, a granulator, rapid mixer granulator. It will require FBP, or it will require a mill, scree, like milling, then compression. If it is a capsule product, then it will require a capsule filling machine. So basically, capacity wise, the feasibility of the project is told, capacity and as well as technology wise. Like, suppose a product requires a hot melt extrusion, then do we have a hot melt at our facility? If at all we need to buy it, then how much will it cost? Can we outsource it? Can we rent it? So all those things, like, full kitting is basically getting a feasibility idea from different departments, like formulation, analytical, and the clinical team will talk about the technical feasibility, technical fitness of the project, and the regulatory will tell about, like, when we can file the product. The intellectual property department will tell, like, what are the launch limiting and launch relevant patents, when can we launch the product. If at all there is any litigation, what are the chances of winning the litigation. or the department like finance or budget or a project management, definitely they will talk about the budget requirement based on the cost of the innovator product, cost of biostudy, cost of material. So all those things, like, and the sourcing department will see like what are the API sources, the drug sources available, like what are the licenses required. So once you basically do the assessment with respect to a very superficial assessment with respect to technical, financial, and of course, like there is a safety assessment, like if the product is suppose an onco product will require a separate facility. So do we have the facility? Do we have the proper PPE kits to handle the product? All those things, like that feasibility checkup we do in full kitting. Then the product like is allocated basically to a certain R&D. If there are different R&Ds having different capacities, like then based on their capacity and capability, the allocation is done. Then the product, like once the R&D applies for different licenses, they get the materials, they get the standards to work on, they get the machineries to work on. Then after that, they kick off the product. That is, kickoff is nothing but, like, deliberately I have kept this jargon. So kickoff is nothing but a start of the project. And once the product starts getting developed, then it goes to a POC stage. What is POC? Is a like proof of concept. Means you arrive at a certain product which is made at a very pilot scale, and basically that matches the requirements what we are defining at the start of the project as our goal. So once the product means, like for example, for a generic product, making a bioequivalent product, making a regulatory compliant product, making a pharmaceutically equivalent product, that is my goal. So accordingly, reaching out to that particular product at a lab scale, that is nothing but achieving the proof of concept. So once the POC is ready, then we go for the technology transfer of the product. The technology transfer, of course, to the plant, where I told you, like the process development team, the material manufacturing science and technology team, analytical science and technology team, they take care of the technology transfer. The analytical methods are transferred, the technology is transferred, the documents are made for the bigger batch execution, and then you go for a exhibit batch execution. That's a submission batch, which we basically file to the different drug agencies. So execution is done at plant. Then based on the data, based on the stability, based on the final artworks, the packaging information, all that, like the clinical report, everything, once they get all the modules in the dossier, like module 1, 2, 3, 4. Module 1 is like more of a documentary part, module 2 and 3 is a pharmaceutical development part, and 3, 4, 5, like basically it is relevant to the clinical part, the packaging part, the labeling part, and so on and so forth. So gathering the dossier, submitting it to agency, basically accepts the dossier. If they find any query in the dossier file dossier, they provide the deficiency. So we get a query from agency, we address the query. So there is a department basically called as a deficiency management, and there is a project management function also called as a deficiency management team, or a deficiency project manager. So then basically we get the approval, and once we get the approval based on the patent scenario, litigation scenario, based on the regulatory aspect, based on all these things, like based on the launch relevant and launch limiting patents, then we prepare for the launch, and then product gets launched in the market. So it's a very big process, for a generic product development. At least for the submission phase, it takes around 22 months. For the approval, it may take somewhere around 30 to 40 months. Launch may get, based on the patent scenario, there are products like which we are able to, like today we are having approvals, but the launches are possible after 10 years, 12 years. So basically, is the product going to be relevant after 10 or 12 years? That is also important. That is what is done by the business team or the portfolio team. They basically see what is the futuristic value of the product, and basically once the product is launched, then the other things like troubleshooting, easing the process, filing different variations, extending the footprints of the product in different countries, taking the product in different countries, like launching in different like different packs, all these things, like these all come under life cycle management. So this is the overall view of like how the life cycle of a project goes. So sorry for these two slides, probably those were not so relevant to the title of the presentation, but what I feel like having said that, like knowing the complete process, how the product is developed in plant, what are the in the pharmaceutical industry, what are the departments that was necessary. So yeah, so whenever, like now I told you, these are different stages where the product goes from the selection to execution to filing, submission, approval, and launch. So for managing all these operations, we require certain processes. So every sub activity will go under like from the initiation, then planning of that particular activity, executing the activity, then monitoring and controlling the activity, and finally once the activity is done, then closing the activity. And these particular process groups are like if it is a full kitting, then initiation of the full kitting, communicating to people, planning, getting the assessment reports from different departments, then basically executing. In that case, executing will be like conducting the full kitting meeting, conducting the kickoff meeting, and then basically monitoring the scope, monitoring the activity, like has every department submitted their assessment report or not. And once we get the complete assessment report, the final full kitting report, once we make, and once it is handed over to the R&D, then it is basically closure of that particular activity. So these process groups are basically deployed as per the convenience for every sub activities. So moving to next slide. So there are 10 different, or maybe like there are, now they say there are 14, and they keep evolving. So basically there are 10 different knowledge areas or 10 different constraints in the project management, and we'll try to touch upon every one of them. What I was thinking, like how I can make it more relevant for the B.Pharm students. So more relevant in the sense, more understandable. So we'll take an example of a marriage, and at the same time we'll talk about like how it is relevant to the pharmaceutical project also. So whatever I told you, like all these phases of a project development, so scope management is basically defining the goal of a project, like what is to be achieved. If it is a tablet, then I'm supposed to make a paracetamol tablet. Then what should be its size, what should be its shape, what should be its cost, when should I launch it, how should it look like. All that, basically falls under defining a scope of the project. And this is only a product description, but scope can be like where will it be developed, when can we develop it, when can we launch it. Everything like a superficial view comes in the scope baseline for the project. So for a marriage purpose, the scope will be like, some X person, like he's supposed to get married. So the scope of the project becomes like, planning a wedding for a person X. So project selection is, there will be basically the selection of the person X for the marriage is the scope. And then the scope will define, okay, he is having certain height, so his partner spouse should be like of certain height, certain complexion, certain education, certain like skills. So all that will be like the expectation. And once like and the kickoff can be like, starting seeing, exploring different marriage bureaus or different, like, visiting different people. Basically that groom bride selection, we can say, like, once we started, then basically it's a like a full kitting activity. And kickoff can be like, okay, not going into like more of the marriage example, but sticking to the point, like basically we have to define, we have to validate the scope, and we have to avoid gold plating. See, a few jargons I have just mentioned in blue font, just to tell you, and you can note them down. Like what are those? Gold plating, like avoiding gold plating is basically what is must to do and what is good to have. Must to have, differentiation between must to have and good to have. So must to have things should be done. Many times, like people ask for more money, unnecessarily very conservative approach. They ask for more budget, or they ask for more time at times. So project manager has to control the schedule, they have to control the money. So basically they are supposed to stick to the scope. So now I am delivering this session, so I am supposed to stick to the scope of a project management introduction. If I start talking about other things, then that will be out of scope. So I have to stick to the scope as a project manager. And WBS is nothing but a work breakdown structure, where the project is broken into different work packages, and then basically it's like we break down the project into different sub activities, and we try to achieve those activities separately. That can be sequential, that can be parallel. So basically scope management is nothing but defining the goal for the project. Then comes the schedule management. Okay, then comes the schedule management. So every project, definitely it will have the way I told you, it's a temporary endeavor. A temporary endeavor means it will have a definite timeline. So creating a timetable for the project, estimating different activities, then sequencing different activities, as I have sequenced, like product selection to life cycle management. So estimating the activities, sequencing the activities, and basically then monitoring the schedule. Once the product schedule is made, so there are different things, like there are different softwares, like Microsoft projects is one of the software. We can make Gantt charts, we can use simple Excel, we can use anything, but we need to have a definite schedule for the project, then definite schedule for the different activities. We should know that what is the critical chain, means the longest chain in achieving the product objective. Then what are the activities which can be done in parallel, what are the activities which should be done sequentially. So with respect to our example of marriage, like fixing the marriage date, then fixing the dates of sub activities, like booking the hall for marriage, or booking the caterers, or like when we'll have the invitation cards, when can we distribute them, all that. Like basically having a schedule for all the activities is something called as schedule management. And okay, fast tracking and crashing, these two jargons. Okay, fast tracking is nothing but doing the things in parallel. So if at all you feel like you're like going out of schedule, like the way like we started this session 15 minutes late, so now there is a pressure on me, like I have to either speak fast, or I have to wind up few sessions, or like I have to just delete some sections in my slide. So that is something I have to adjust to match the schedule of the this webinar. So fast tracking is nothing but doing the things in parallel, and crashing is like deploying more resources to achieve the product like objectives. So either you add more resources or you do the things parallelly, but you stick to the schedule. Then cost management. Cost management is nothing but a budgeting activity. There are few direct cost and indirect cost. Like direct cost can be like the cost of API, cost of inverter product, cost of excipients, then cost of material for the execution of batch at plant. It can be cost of biostudy. These are the direct costs. The indirect cost like can be the individual like salaries of the people, then utility bills, all the overhead costs that will come under indirect cost. And like there can be few costs like capacity cost, like if you need to buy a new instrument equipment for the analysis or execution, then that comes under capacity expenditure. So that is also kind of a cost. So basically estimating the cost initially at the time of full kitting, and of course like a rough idea at the time of full kitting, and a concrete budget at the time of kickoff we should have. Then we basically define that each work breakdown structure, each work package, what budget will go for that particular activity. And then accordingly, a project manager basically sees to it, like how the spends are made, if like, what is the planned versus earned value, means like how much we plan to get out of this expenditure, have we got it, are we over budget, are we under budget. So if at all, if there are like some known uncertainties, like suppose known uncertainties like maybe my biostudy may fail, so I need to budget something for a fallback option or a second iterative biostudy. So that is kind of a known uncertainty, so we should have some contingency in the budget. Or there can be some unknown uncertainties, that is like very worst case, like whatever API we bought, we couldn't execute, there is some fire in the plant, or something like that, material got wasted, and then at that time we need to again spend more for the project. So all that comes under unknown uncertainties. For that we require management reserves. So basically having this project budget, then contingency, then management reserves, direct indirect cost involved, all that budgeting part is basically nothing but a cost management, and project manager is responsible for doing that. Then the quality management, so the quality policy of a company is fixed, like it's like we abide by like providing a quality product to the customers, to the patients. So basically then how that quality will come, the departments called as quality assurance and quality control are there. Quality control is more of controlling the quality of a product, and quality assurance is like more of controlling the quality of operations or the system. So QA, QC departments are there, but pharmaceutical project quality management is something not different, but like they do make use of these departments, but they have to basically stick to the quality of the defined project, like defined objective. Like if at all my expectation is like delivering a product in certain size, shape, delivering a product at certain time, delivering a product with certain ruggedness, robustness, or delivering a product of certain quality, a defined quality, all that management, or like basically verification of that activity, for that say conducting different audits, internal audits, external audits, or basically if there are like agency audits, then basically managing them, all that comes under the quality management of the project management, quality management aspect of the project management. Then the resource management. So resources are the people who are basically working on the project, but it can be like a personal the people means the personal resources, but the resources can be a technology also. So project manager basically is responsible for telling like how many people will be required, what are the instruments will be required, what are the activities we need to do outside, like what we are supposed to outsource, what we are supposed to buy, what we are supposed to rent. Then the decision of make versus buy, in the sense like what we can do in-house, what we can get ready-made. Then basically acquiring the resources, giving them training, after training deploying them, and then basically controlling and monitoring like how the resources are performing. So whenever you form a team, that team forming should happen at the kickoff level, of course, like that's why I made it green. And the teams keep adding, like at the time of POC only R&D team is involved, then at the time of tech transfer the plant teams get involved, like R&D teams like get freed from the project, then the execution and submission is done by the regulatory team. So there is a participation of different teams at different levels of the project, but that management and keeping a track on that is the responsibility of a project manager. And basically once you form a team, then like it goes into different, like I have given like based on the time, the team effectiveness, how it is mapped. So forming the team, then storming. It's like there will be some misunderstandings, there will be some differences of opinions. So that storming, like any team you form, like they may not work so closely. Like even if you get admitted to the college, everyone is not your friend. As the days progress, then you start knowing people, you start knowing your professors, then you start building a kind of a rapport with each other. So that is basically but initially you may have some differences of opinion. So you form the team, then you storm with the team amongst yourself, then you come to a norming, like you come to a settlement, and then there is a time of performing, basically giving output to the management. And once the desired output is achieved, once the product is achieved, then you basically adjourn the team, or you basically allocate the team, you free the team members for the upcoming projects. So then communication management, this is the most important part. As I said in the first slide, for the project manager, communication management is the most important aspect. And like you may wonder, like why I have given this focus light on and there is no cell basically highlighted. So this is basically communication is required for throughout the life cycle of the project. I'm sorry for that red line. I don't know from where it came. I'm more acquainted with the Microsoft projects, but Zoom is something I don't use. Like I use it very rarely, so I'm not aware of, but I hope it's not disturbing. So, okay, communication management. Basically, intent of the communication, content of the communication, and the frequency of the, like, what should be the frequency of the communication. So that monitoring is the job of project manager. The communication can be a formal and informal, or a written or verbal. So a formal written communication is something, a report. Informal written is something, a message, a WhatsApp message, or a what we can say, a tweet, or a mail. A mail is also informal written communication. A formal verbal communication is kind of a conducting a phase gate, basically arranging a like high level meeting for discussion. And informal verbal can be just a tea time chat, or it can be just a phone call. It comes under informal communication. But project manager has to do has to manage all these kind of communications, so that every team member, every aspect of the project is informed about the timeline, about the budget, about the progress of the project. And the most important work of a project manager is basically MIS, that is a management information system. So project manager keeps on telling the management, like what is the status of the product, where are we on that, are we red, green, blue, are we red, green, or yellow, based on the risk. And accordingly, that communication, a transparency in the communication is important. It's not a goody job. Like you have to tell what is the status of the project, what is going to be the fate of the project, are we going to be successful, or are we going to just sunk the money what we are investing. Whatever is there, like a project manager is supposed to communicate to managers, top management. Then the risk management. Yes, of course, like when we are doing a project, we are never sure. When we got admitted to B Farm, we are never sure that whether I'll pass or not. But with that risk, like there are few risks you have to accept, you have to few risks you have to reduce. So I'll come to that this thing. But basically categorizing the analyze, first of all, what are the risks? Then after that, we need to categorize them like low risk, medium risk, and high risk. And then basically we need to give the attention to the high risk items, and we need to basically reduce the risk as we progress in the project. So one of the method is like just categorizing them as low, medium, high, just as such based on your experience, or it can be a failure mode and effect analysis. So maybe like you'll be having these terminologies in your B Farm and Farm syllabus. I'm not sure about the new syllabus, but I think so. These terminologies are there. So failure mode and effect analysis. What you do there is like whatever ways the product may fail, all those failure modes basically you have to give numerical values based on their like probability of occurrence, probability of detection, and the severity or the impact of that particular risk. So based on that RPN value, risk probability number value, you categorize whether it's a low risk, medium risk, or a high risk item. And risk can be different. Risk can be external risk, like suppose I am doing a project and a government agency may come, like, you are polluting the environment, like this is not acceptable, so they may stop my project. It's an external risk. Internal risk can be like, even after using the PPs and all, the people may fall ill, or my budget, maybe I may go some over budget. So, or my even after doing multiple trials, I'm not arriving at the final formula. So it's a technical risk basically, or there is a high chance of failure of the biostudy. So that is also kind of a technical risk. And project management risk is like definitely like going beyond the schedule or going over the budget. All those are like project management risk. So the origin of the risk can be like, it can be the scope risk, or it can be as I told you, the same things I'm talking. I'm sorry. So schedule risk, cost risk, the resource risk, or the quality risk. Like at the end of the day, I have made a product, but it is not of the final value what I actually opted for. I just had a custom made car, but the way I had designed it, or like thought of it, the final output product is not having the same color or the same engine performance. So basically that is a kind of a quality risk. So we have to basically identify, then quantify, and then monitor, and then reduce these risks. So many times, like, if at all I need to go certain place, then if I have to reach early, then I have to basically suppose acceptance of the risk means certain risks are like something you cannot avoid. Means if at all you keep on thinking only about the risk, then you probably may not take. There should be a risk appetite, what they call it in organizational like way. Like there is a you should have certain risk appetite. You should definitely work for reduction of certain, like you have to reach to airport, so you rent a car, you don't go by auto rickshaw, so that way you reduce your risk. So that way, at times you transfer the risk, means like if you are going to carry a lot of load with you, a lot of baggage with you, instead of doing that, like you courier some part of that. So that way you transfer some risk, or you take your partner, you take your friend along with you, so that he'll keep an eye like on the baggage and all. So that is kind of a transferring the risk. So hope this particular terminology is clear. Coming to, I'm keeping an eye on the watch. I'm sorry, like I think we are reaching 12, but I'll just try to wind up the things as soon as possible. So procurement management is like, so of course, like for the project, you will require different materials. You need to, as I said, you need to rent few things. You need to outsource few things, like stability studies you may give outside, or like for certain analytical activities, if you don't have instruments, you need to do them outside, or like, so in this case, finding a vendor, having a biddings from vendor, then having confidentiality agreements from the vendor, having certain regulatory documents from the vendors, and then basically having their commitment for the commercial supplies, like once you go for the commercialization of the product. All those things like basically come under the procurement management. So moving to the next part, stakeholder management. So with respect to our marriage example, I think these things are pretty clear. Like okay, here, like schedule, scope of the management, we talk schedule, like when we have to book the things. Cost, of course, like what can be the cost, how many people we are going to call, what will be the cost of the food, what will be the cost of the hall, what will be the cost of the other materials, the cloths, everything. The quality management, definitely, like the kind of hall, the kind of illumination, the kind of like food, what we are going to have, all that, like quality we try to maintain. The resource, in the sense like who will do what, who will take care of the invitation part, who will take care of the food part, who will book that horse for the marriage, everything. Like, so basically assigning different activities to different people, that will be the resource management. And then of course the invitation part, like who is supposed to, like to whom we are supposed to call for the marriage, who we are supposed to call for the reception, or maybe for the later on pujas and all. So that communication basically, like that is a communication management what we can relate to. Risk, of course, like what if the light goes off? Do we have a generator? What if it rains? Then and the marriage is on lawn. Do we have a alternate hall if at all to shift the people? What if the vehicle by which people are going to come, if it fails, do we have a backup vehicle? In some cases, if that goes wrong, so all that risk management is there. Procurement, of course, you can correlate buying different things for the marriage. And then the stakeholders management. So stakeholders is basically resource. The difference between resources and stakeholders is of course, stakeholders include the resources who are working on the project, but who is the project sponsor? The management at where the product is ongoing, the project manager, the portfolio manager, the customer, all those people, whoever is responsible, the internal and external people who are associated with the project or the different departments, all those are basically the stakeholders. And basically project managers most of the time goes in stakeholder management, basically having the communication between them, having the transparency between them, then managing the conflicts between them, all those things that a project manager has to do. So based on the power and interest grid, whoever is having the highest power. So okay, come to our marriage example. Those who are brides and grooms, parents, those are having high power and high interest. We need to manage them closely. The friends of the groom, though they do not have much interest in the marriage, but they have high power in the sense they may keep dancing in the marriage, and they will all that more to be you can miss, so that you have to keep them satisfied. Your distant relatives and all, you have they have high interest, but they have less power, so you need to keep them informed about when is the marriage, when they should come, when they should leave, what is the last time they can have a lunch or dinner, and monitor minimum. These can be your neighbors and all who are having less interest and less power basically with respect to the marriage. So you just have to give minimal efforts. You just give them cards, and you just see once they come, then they are well communicated, when to have lunch and when to go, something like that, or when the vehicles are arranged for the marriage and also. Likewise, so internal stakeholders are basically the employees, the manager, the owner of the company, and the external stakeholders are the suppliers, the vendors, the customers, the sponsor of the project, even the government. Those become our external stakeholders. Okay, well, coming to the methodologies, I told you these are different methodologies. Waterfall methodology is something called as just like a waterfall, doing the things sequentially, one after another. And this is now outdated, but at times you need to follow the waterfall. It means planning for the honeymoon you cannot do before marriage, so there is a certain sequence for all the activities. There will be a invitation, then marriage, and then other things. So basically that goes as a waterfall. But a plan driven thing, a predictive methodology of project management is basically based on our historical experiences. We plan for the quantity of food or different things, or the budget required for the project, all those things, all that timetable, basically that follows a predictive way of project management. Then agile methodology of a project management, this is very popular these days. There are certain certifications you can do in agile methodology. It is kind of adaptive. Even if you fail at certain level, still you have a fallback option, you have a plan B to be in place, and then you do not you do not get that setback. You have a plan B, you go still move ahead. Iterative and incremental means doing the things at a small scale, and then going in an incremental way to achieve the product timeline. Sequential versus parallel, what I discussed just now. Lean Six Sigma, reducing the lean, reducing the wastage in the system, and focusing on the prime objectives of the project management aspects or project aspects is a Lean Six Sigma methodology of project management. Kanban and Kaizen, these are Japanese terminologies. There are different ways. The basic principles of project management, they remain same, but there are different people come up with different ways of monitoring and controlling the project, and that's why all these Kaizen, Kanban, Lean, Agile, Six Sigma, all these things are coming in place. So okay, so So the project management leadership can be like of different types in different organizations. It can be autocratic, like project manager uh, basically dictates the work to the people, and then the work is being done. But that is not something done in project management of pharmaceutical industry. It is more of a delegative or democratic way. Democratic way in the sense, for the high level managers, it becomes a democratic, like for every product they come together, they discuss, they agree to a certain point. So there is a democracy in the system, and then the project goes as per the, like, as per the agreed timelines and budget. And then after a certain level, it becomes a delegative leadership, in the sense the team leads, the group leaders, they delegate the activities to their subordinates, and then basically that project management or that monitoring and control is done. So that will be a delegative leadership. We can have a mixture of leadership also, but because there is not a certain methodology where which activity to be managed how. So there can be a mixture of the things, like how you manage the product. Then okay, then we learned about so many things, but like how the project manager and what are the different roles or sub roles of a project manager. So a project is something like a temporary endeavor to attend, to manage something that is a project. But when there is a group of projects together, then it becomes a program. And if there are multiple such programs together, then it becomes a portfolio. So for your example, every MPharm student doing their own project, pursuing their own degree, it's a project. But a department like pharmaceutics department has 6 students, suppose, then it becomes a program. And then different departments, quality assurance, pharmaceutics, then pharma management, all these departments, then quality assurance, analytical. So all these different MPharm students department, they come together and form a portfolio. So there can be different things, like a project office manager is someone who takes care of different trainings to the project managers, then rolling out different what you can say, formats of gathering the information, or for the MIS, management information system, like for telling the management where are we, how are we progressing on the project liaison, as I told you, like is one of my KRA, is like being an interface between two different functions. Like I am a liaison between R&D and a manufacturing facility, so that's a liaison activity. Then it can be just a product manager only for a certain product that like a manager will work, or it can be a launch manager. So once the product is in the plant facility, all the activities relevant to the launch, like gathering the materials, scaling up the batch, or defining the price for the product, then defining for timetable for the launch, maintaining the stocks in the market, all that comes under the launch management. 3P is nothing but third party management. If at all you are outsourcing few activities, then basically having different agreements with the parties, then making payments to the parties as you achieve the milestones, then basically closure of the activity, all that comes under third party project management. And general project management can be like different operational excellence activities, or it can be just a simplification. Suppose some activity we need to do at an organizational level, all those activities also are given as a add-on or a value addition activity for the project managers. So yeah, so a project manager is nothing but a superman, I must say. Not only because I'm a project manager, but definitely this function is a superman function. How they do it, their objective is to achieve the work. So how they do it is like, the formal way of doing is just delegating the work and getting the work done. But at times you need to reward people for their achievements. Then you give out some reward points, you give them some Amazon gift cards, or like you give them some appreciation. So all that you do as a reward methodology of doing project management. At times you need to penalize people. There are like villains in the system. Those people deliberately do not want to do the product on time. So you need to penalize them. You need to escalate them those such people or departments in the system, so that they get the penalty. If the penalty can be monetary, the penalty can be like stoppage of the agreement. Like if it is a vendor not giving us services in time, then you basically do not give them further projects. Then at times giving the expert opinion based on your skills, knowledge, your experience. So and at times the referent means like you just use your contacts, your position, and you just refer your name or like someone else's name in the top management, and they get the work done. So these are the different things you do to achieve the product. So who can become a project manager? Doesn't require a certain skill, certain degree, but definitely requires certain skills, certain experience. But nevertheless, there are a few certifications you can do that require certain amount of experience in the industry. After that, you can think of getting these certifications. Few certifications you can do even after your, immediately, I think, after your completion of M-Pharm, or you can think of doing some project management programs which are available at IIMs and other B schools. So certified associate in project management, certified project management, then the Scrum Master, having the Prince 2 or like project management professional certification. PMP certification is considered as a gold standard in the area of project management. Even I have not done a PMP, not a big deal. I'm planning to do it this year. I'm a certified Scrum Manager, and basically these accolades will basically having these certifications will increase the different interview opportunities for you, or different growth opportunities in the organization you are working with. So that's it from my side. Thanks for bearing with me. I'm Amit. As I told, like I'm working with Sandoz. Earlier I have worked with Sun Pharma, Mylan, Voca, Dr. Reddy's, and Aurobindo. Like my contact details are flashing on the screen. You can reach out to me. You can connect me if at all you feel like on LinkedIn. So that's all about me. I'm not sure how could you relate or how did you find it, but I'm open for the questions not relevant to project management. It can be anything you want to know about the organization, about your different career opportunities, or anything, or any non-specific specific point. I'm open for the questions. Thank you, Jela. Thank you, Deepak, and thank you, Dr. Savita. Over to you.
On behalf of everyone here, I would like to sincerely thank you, Mr. Amit Shirley, for your very meaningful and interesting, knowledgeable presentation. I'm sure that our students have understood about the importance of pharmaceutical project management in the pharmaceutical industry. I believe that they have got some idea about the various processes and the steps involved, right from selecting a project till its launch in the market, and its planning and identifying the risks, the financial budgeting and all. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Now, I encourage the students to post their questions, or you may also unmute yourself and post and ask your questions.
Hello.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Amit.
Hi, good afternoon, Deepak.
Yeah, since you touched many different management points in your presentation, like project management, risk management, we are also offering a few of the courses on Coursera and edX for our students.
Great.
If you guide them, which are the essential certification courses which can be required for getting entry into the pharmaceutical industry, so they can highlight you can highlight them, and so that they can choose those certificates, because they are free certificates we are providing them, the free type, platform Coursera and edX. So if you tell them which are the other than the pharmacy knowledge or pharmacy subjects, which are other requirements like Excel or the data entry or Six Sigma, what you mentioned few of the Kaizen, that will be very beneficial for our student.
Definitely. So all the courses what I mentioned, they are not basically tailor-made for pharmaceutical project management. Those are like the general project management concepts what they teach you in Kaizen or Six Sigma or anything like per se. But uh, if at all like people want to like enter into pharmaceutical industry as a manager directly, then the best option will be like having a pharmaceutical management course. And then I have seen people coming into industry like, as a project manager directly after doing the MPharm or MPharm in pharmaceutical administration management, or the general MBA course post B pharmacy. On the Coursera front, there are different courses available, but they will just give you an overview about how the things are done. But my personal experience says if at all like first of all, if you want to get entry in the organizer in the industry level, you please those who want to be part of formulation and analytical development, please do your masters in the subject, and then you get entry. In addition to that, definitely the courses like which talk about the intellectual property management or the regulatory courses are there. Those certifications you can definitely do. And Six Sigma, initial yellow belt and all that also you can do. That will add some value to your resume, definitely. But once you get experience in the industry, and then if you choose which area you want to explore yourself, I have an aspiration to go to portfolio management, or I may have an aspiration to go to business development for that sake. But that aspiration cannot be only fulfilled with the degrees what I get. At the same time, I should understand how the business is run. Now I'm a project manager, but I tell you the difference between my project management and the people who directly came from MBA background or like started their careers as project managers. There is a difference because I understand the technical terms of the project. I may not understand much of the management terms, but for a very specific business, your technical terms are more important than your management terms, because what are the constraints, what can be the technical challenges you foresee, the futuristic challenges and all those things you can anticipate. If at all you're having experience in particular sector, you can definitely go from formulation to regulatory to IP. Anywhere you can go, you can go from any department to a different department. But to go there, it will require certain skill sets. What I said, it can be a degree or it cannot be, but a certain skill set is something which is very important. Material science, manufacturing science and technology, this department was not there earlier. But people who were at least spending 3-4 years in formulation development, R&D, those people are like more fit to understand the manufacturing part of the plant. If they directly join plant, then for them they always miss that part of like how the development is done. So not very specific answer to your question, Deepak, which courses they need to do, but what skill sets they need to develop, that is more important, I'll say rather. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Amit. uh, in continuation with that, again, I have means, since you have worked in different departments earlier also in different industries like in
Right.
IPR and other, uh, our students are either after B Farm they may start career, or they may go for higher studies. After M Farm also they are going for higher studies also, or they may get entry into the industry. So in before that only, if they will get an idea which are the different departments where they can get an opportunity, the maximum opportunity. Like we know traditional departments like QA, QC, production. Nowadays, like IPR, regulatory affairs, and then pharmacovigilance are there. What are other departments where they can target those departments and work on them so that they get entry into those departments?
Thanks for the question, Deepak. So, first of all, guys, we need to know what is our inclination. Uh, are we the scientists from within? Are we the managers from within? Are we just a team member, or are we the leaders? You should know your inclination. So if your inclination is towards the research, if you like it, then R&D, of course, like earlier it used to be only formulation development and analytical development, but now there is a pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamic department, which forms a, like, clinical development department. So CD is a new function, clinical development, where pharmacokinetics and dynamics, like, so the pharmacology people and analytical background people and even the formulation background people, the pharmaceutics people, they can opt to go to clinical development, where the uh, pharmacological or biopharmaceutical aspect of knowledge can be utilized. Regulatory affairs is more of a dossier submission, where you may or may not have direct R&D experience. If you have, it's good, great, but reality is, like, once you stick to one department, it is very hard to change your department. So regulatory affairs, like, it is better to have a course and go in regulatory. Regulatory is more of a sitting job. Like, few people may like it, few people may not, but it is like basically interacting with different regulatory agencies, submitting the dossier, extending the products to different markets. Supply chain also, pharmaceutical people can go. They need, I think, if at all they get an MBA, that will be good, or some courses like with respect to SAP system, that will help them to get entry into supply chain. How the technical knowledge will be useful, like, selection of the API, selection of the grade of the API, finalizing the particle size of the API, or like whenever there are few technical queries from the development team, you need to communicate that to the vendor. But if you are a non-technical person, then you'll just do a postman job, like, what is the query, what is the answer, what is the query, what is the answer. Like, instead of doing that postman job, if at all a technical person enters a supply chain department, definitely they can do a lot of value addition. MSAT and ASAT departments, as I told you, are very similar to formulation and analytical department. Only like FD and AD, they work at R&D, and MSAT, ASAT, they are based at plant. IPM, yes, of course, like all the IPM are mostly, yeah, if at all you do a law course after your B Farm, that will give definitely a value addition to join IP department, or the IPR course, or what I told you, that will be good. Portfolio management, yes, if at all you are from a B school postgraduate, or diploma holder from a B school, that will add some value to get entry into portfolio management. Portfolio management is a very fascinating career, where you basically decide the fate of the product. What are you selecting? How are you going to launch it? What will be its cost? Or how much revenue you are going to generate for your company? All those things are basically decided at a portfolio office. Finance is not something so relevant to pharmaceutical people. Yes, of course, if you pursue your MBA in finance, then that is something you can do. But finance is more of a chartered accountants and all. But there are some associated functions which work in finance department, who basically help them to understand the budgetary aspect and the schedule of the spend. Like, okay, there is X amount you will require for the product, but how the spend will occur, how much we have to spend this year, how much next year, what can be the risk based, what can be the risky investment, what is a sure shot certain earning investment. All those guidance a project like a pharmaceutical person can give. Project management of pharma administration or a pharmaceutical management course will help you to get entry into project management. But I'll suggest, if at all you work in any of these departments and then more shift to, and once you understand the modus operandi of an organization, then you can move to project management department, because you cannot manage people only based on degree or based on certain templates or based on certain Excel sheets and colorful slides and presentations. You need to have a certain weightage in your thinking, your skill, in your communication, of course. Otherwise, that also becomes a postman job. So sorry for these words, postman job, but these are like how they call. So many people, if you ask someone, how is project management department, people will say it's a postman job. And definitely, and like, believe me, it's a postman job if at all you don't understand what are you doing. If you just end up making minutes of the meeting at the end of the meeting, then and you call people and ask what to be written here, what should be the timeline, how much time will it take, and if you don't know the business, then you are not a good project manager. A good project manager is like who knows what is a project, and then only you can manage it. It's like the one who never went into farms cannot be a good farmer. It's like that. If at all you have worked in farms and then you become a big person, now you have money, and now you feel like you want to become a farmer, then I think that way it goes, like having certain skill sets and experience, historical experience, or a legacy at times. The way we say, in Hindi, like Marwadi ke bacche ko business nahi sikhana hota hai. So it's a legacy basically. They see it from their childhood how to run a business, and then they become good businessmen. So it's like that. It's like that. Deepak.
Thank you, Amit. I am done from my side. Over to Dela, madam, please.
We have a question by Dr. Norma Ribello, one of our professors. Would like to know what is the average time taken for project assessment?
Project assessment time, basically it goes in different cycles. First of all, I'll tell you, there is a department, portfolio management, as I said. Then portfolio management is also then divided into certain departments or certain categories. Like if you are working on respiratory products, if you are working on cardiovascular, then those people keep an eye on the market. What are the new molecules coming, what are the new, what are the suppliers, how the business is growing, what are the, when the market entry is possible. There are different platforms called as Newport or Cortelius who do this business assessment or business data management kind of a thing. Those are paid softwares or paid subscriptions where you find what are the products coming into market. And once you find a new molecule coming into market, and if you find a growth in that, then they basically present that business case as a pre-apex meeting to management, and then it goes in a second round of discussion, it goes to the apex meeting. Then once the business or the marketing team is convinced with the business case of the project, and if they are convinced with the spends versus returns and the net present value, the terminology they use is what will be the sales value, what will be the product making cost, what will be the investment on return, what can be the NPV, that net present value for the project. All these business terminologies are basically this way the terminologies are presented, and the product assessment with respect to business is done. Once the business part is done, then it is given for the technical assessment. The way I said, the formulation analytical team says, can we take up this product for the development? Do we have all the instruments and equipments to do that? Then the clinical team says, what kind of a study it will require, how many volunteers it will require, will it require a patient study or a normal population study? So how much spend will go in that. Regulatory will tell when we can file the product. IP will say like, are we able to invalidate any patent, or are we able to, like, do a design around strategy for making that product. All that technical assessment comes, and then business assessment plus technical assessment, that gives a complete full kitting for the project. So this may take, to answering very specifically to this particular question, and why I mentioned all this, like, before coming to the timeline, because these are so many activities which are basically falling from the product identification, product selection, then product feasibility checkup, and then product allocation. This may take almost 6 months to 8 months timeline. This way it goes. Like, it takes 6 months at least on an average.
Okay, okay, sir. There is one more question posted on
Yeah.
the YouTube by our final year student, Christopher.
Mhm.
He asks if a project requires market analysis prior to its commencement, which tools are employed most often?
So as I told you, Newport and Cortelius, like, are the tools what we generally use for the market assessment. What is the what is the stake of the innovator? How much is the sales of the project? What is the price at which it is being sold? What can be the price? What can be the total product cost, or like cost of goods, COGS we call it in our terminology. Like, what can be the COGS for the product? All those things. And what are the API suppliers? What are the launch limiting and launch relevant patents? When the latest launch of the product is possible? What are the different markets in which the product is available? What are the different markets, and what are the timelines for the entries in those markets? Then how many markets are having the similar products? For which markets we need to modify the product? Means, like, the same product may exist as a tablet, and the same product is existing as a capsule in some other market. Certain markets require that the reference product and the generic product should have exactly same organoleptic characteristics, but few markets require that there should not be any color match, otherwise it's a trade dress offense. So you need to be, like, at least 2 to 3 Pantone shade different than the innovator product. So there are different asked from different countries. Like, there are like different ask for with respect to bio studies conduct. Like, at times you need to do it in certain racial population. In China market requires the bio study to be performed only in China. So all those things, like, basically a few countries go with the tender based system, few countries and there are patent scenarios also are different for different countries. So all that thing is done. The technical assessment is, like, as I told you, the software means these are the companies basically who are the data management companies who just give us the seed of thinking for the project. But the actual mental investment, the technical investment, or the feasibility assessment is done by the core teams. Like, the core teams for the core technical teams for the technical assessment. Budgeting and all is done along with the finance, with the project managers, and the portfolio basically just calculates the business. That way it goes. So softwares, I told you, Cortelius and Newport are the softwares, but those are not the only thing. Like, there are few other paid things also, and many, like, IIM students and all, they come into business development, portfolio management. They do also conduct some independent search. The marketing teams who are deployed in the respective countries, those are also having a close eye on the market, which strength is having more demand in the market. Like, a product may have 8 different strengths, but the in demand is, like, only 2 strengths out of that. Or there are different packs, like blisters, bottles. Like, in blisters also there can be a PVC or like a transparent pack, or a alu, like completely, or like a biscuit pack, like a wrapper filled pack. So which pack is having more demand, or like which requires a child resistant thing, which requires a starter pack. Like there are days mentioned alongside of the dosage, like tablet, day 1 tablet, day 2 tablet. Like likewise, what I'm trying to say is, like, there is no a definite thing like which will tell you which product to select. It's a very complex dynamics which is involved in the product selection, because it comes with a lot of cost, budgetary investment. Making a innovator product is definitely, it requires a lot of money. It takes like billions of rupees to come up in the market. But making a generic product is also not a cakewalk. It requires, like, for the onco products and all, we see our budgets are ranging from 6 crores to 10 crores per product. So in INR I'm talking about. So yes, so it varies. Like in dollars, like for companies like us, we are spending almost 10 to 15 million dollars per project for catering into 7 to 8 countries at times. So it's a complex dynamics. There is nothing specific. It's a collaborative effort, and a project manager, of course, like, tries to collaborate and entangle all of them in a sequential and a systematic manner to come up with the right decision. And the dynamics do change. Yeah, that results into killing the product. You may need to stop the product at times. Like, you may not continue with. Many times a new molecule comes into market. Initially it was hydroxychloroquine. In COVID situation, everyone took it, and now no one is thinking of hydroxy. Now the people are talking about ivermectin, and now people are saying, like, ivermectin in these doses is not useful for COVID treatment. So favipiravir came, and now people are saying, like, okay, then probably favi is not required for all the conditions. Mild and moderate can be cured by doxycycline only. So all the dynamics change. Like remdesivir, all the production of remdesivir stopped worldwide, considering, like, now corona has gone. But now because of the second wave, now everyone is requiring remdesivir, and like there is a huge shortfall of remdesivir. Now people are scaling up the operations. Earlier vaccine was not there, but now we have Sputnik from Dr. Reddy's. We have Covaxin made in India. We have Covishield made with AstraZeneca. There are like people like Johnson and Johnson coming into market. There is a mRNA based vaccine made by Pfizer, which wants entry in Indian market. So so these market dynamics, they keep on changing. What is required when? So you spend a lot of money in developing something, and then you ultimately find the product is nowhere relevant in the market. So that is the thing.
Okay.
Aniket wants to ask something, or he's just like he's unmute by mistake probably. That's fine. That's fine. Any more questions?
Yeah. We have one more question by one of our third year students, Abhishek Kushwaha. So you have mentioned about the importance of an MBA degree, but he wants to know, is there a necessity to have a master's degree program to be a project manager?
Is there necessity? Pardon, please come again for the last sentence.
Is it a necessity to have a master's degree to be a project manager?
It is not necessary. It is not necessary to have a master's degree to become project manager, but considering the population in India, considering the competition in India, we should have that degree. People from earlier IP and all departments, even people from BSc BCom background also, we have seen working in IP department at times. Till date, or I think even today, the head of CIPLA is a B Farm. Like her degree is B Farm. Dilip Sanghvi, who is owner of Sun Pharma, he is just having BCom degree, and his wife is B Farm. It is not limited. Basically, the having the degree is not necessary to become like to get certain role. But considering the competition in India, the population, the number of colleges, the number of people coming out, I will suggest at least have a post graduation, or at least try to have certain courses which will give you an age, or like you can become a selection, a choice of choice for the interviews, uh, having a degree alongside. Because I tell you, for any like for our notice, if any position comes out, there are 300 400 applications for a small post. And then who is to be selected from that? Then people see from which what are the degrees of people, then they see from which college they are coming, what is their last company, do they have any industrial experience or not. So having a degree is always a value addition, but not having a degree cannot stop you from going there or managing something. But to be realistic, it's always better to have a degree.
Yes, yes, absolutely right. We have one more question from one of our professors, Mr. Prakash Kandadale. How does the portfolio management of a project can be managed in the current scenario of pandemic?
If I rightly understand the question, okay, the portfolio management in current situation of pandemic, as I said, suppose now this pandemic has come, and please feel free to stop me if I'm not giving a relevant answer. You can reframe your question, professor. But suppose this pandemic has come and I'm working for X company, a pharmaceutical company. Now the portfolio manager will see what are the business opportunities for the pandemic. Then they will go in the statistics of, first of all, if we are having all the dosage forms, then do we need to start developing the injections, the injectables, the solid orals, or the supplementary, like you know uh, means like supplementary in the sense like vitamin C and all these antacids, they are also doing good business these days. Or a simple tablet of paracetamol is also making good business these days. But the specialty products like favipiravir, which is like used, or doxycycline or ivermectin, that is a kind of a solid dosage form, actual products which are working on the patients in this pandemic. But for the moderate and severe conditions, they require remdesivir injections. For the even severe conditions, they are requiring anticoagulants, heparin, warfarin treatments are required. So your basically, then you need to know, a portfolio will see what can we make, what is our what can we make, by when, what can we make at the earliest, or as per the statistics, which patients are more, are the mild patients are more, or moderate and severe patients are more. So the way I told you, why there is a remdesivir injection shortfall is because then there was a sharp decline in number of patients. So portfolio managers, they said, okay, stop the production of remdesivir, it is not required. Then the production of just vitamin C, paracetamol, and everything, other things like which were in demand, that increased. But now everyone basically now remdesivir production has started going up. So portfolio manager would have taken that decision. No, the market dynamics says that remdesivir will is required and will be required now. Probably the second wave may not go so easily, or considering the size of India now, it is only in Maharashtra, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, and Kerala. So it may go to Telangana, it may spread to Karnataka or Rajasthan. So as they have not touched the second wave, they will definitely go into second wave. So number of people falling ill or requiring remdesivir will increase. So the portfolio manager will decide that the production should be done at this time. because everything comes with expiry. You cannot make the things today and you just wait for okay, when patients will come. And it's a dirty business, of course. It's a noble business, but at the same time it's a business. You definitely want to make out some money, make some money from the business. So when to make it, where to distribute it, and what should be its price, because there will be so many companies coming with the molecule. Then what should be the competent price, what should be the logistic for that, all those things we need to decide. But the portfolio manager always has an eye on which is having a better market and which we can make. If I'm a simple company making a paracetamol, then I will not think about making remdesivir and other things, because if I don't have injectable facility, either I will try to do it outsource, or I may not just think of that. Then I will try to make my own vitamin C tablets or and paracetamol tablets. So what is your capacity? What is your capability? And what extent you can stretch yourself? All that defines what is your call in this pandemic. I hope my answer is relevant to your question, Professor.
Yes, sir. Good point. So there is one more question from one of our final year students, Mukesh Chaudhary. He wants to know if you have to mention one skill that a project manager needs to succeed at, what would it be? One skill a project manager needs to succeed at.
One skill a project manager needs to have. If you ask me the best, there is no one skill. As I told you, there are 10 different knowledge areas. So your skill should be in budgeting, communication, everything. But still, if you ask me the one skill, it can be the communication. Many times people do good budgeting, many times people do write good mails, but writing a good mail is not a communication. Having a knowing what is the intent, what is the frequency, and what is the content of the communication, what is the frequency of communication, and who is supposed making people aware that who is responsible, who is accountable, who is just to be consulted, and who is just to be informed. That communication skill should be there, because many products I have seen failing in my tenure in industry only because of miscommunication. Like, the product loses its market value, still the R&D is working on the project. The market dynamics has completely changed with respect to some product. There few products come up as a capsule in the market, and then I give you example of one of the product, palbociclib was one of the product. Initially capsules were launched in the market, and US product got changed from the innovator changed its capsule product from capsule to tablet. Then other markets like Japan, China, Europe, there was some delta, there was some gap for changing the product from capsule to tablet. But the one who anticipates, there is a shift in the formula from capsule to tablet, so that eventually all the markets will go through that change. So if at all we are developing a product for other markets as capsule, we should stop that development, we should change it to tablet. So even if you know, but if you do not communicate at right time, then you just keep on spending a lot of money. If some product is dropped and you don't communicate it to R&D, or don't communicate it to sourcing, and sourcing buys a lot of material, like a lot of instruments, lot of standards, lot of solvents, and then everything is getting wasted. So right time communication is I think it is the most important skill. And believe me, 90% of the project management time goes in communication only. So communication management, or that skill, is the most important skill a project manager should have.
Right, right. So you mentioned about litigation as a part of the process development. So, is it related to the regulatory department or it's a separate department? You mentioned about
So,
litigation.
so litigation is see how you're going to file a product, that is important. If the product doesn't have any patent, it's a para 1 filing. If the patent is already expired, it is para 2 filing. If the patent is going to get expired and if you are planning to launch the product post patent expiry, then it's a para 3 filing. And if you're going to challenge a patent, and if you are going to show that this patent is no more valid, or if at all, for example, if someone has a patent of making a tea using sugar, and then someone develops a method using like creating the same quality but using a sugar cane juice. So someone will say that patent says use of sugar, but I have used a juice instead of using a sugar. Then the company having patent of sugar, they may sue the second inventor, like sugar is made up of sugarcane juice only, so what is the greatness in that? So it's a prior art, it's not a like it's not a novel. So having novelty, utility, and different, like there are different aspects, like on what basis a patent can be granted. So likewise, whenever you file a generic product as a para 4 filing, that means you are challenging certain patents, or you are claiming that you are not you are invalidating certain patents. That is the challenging only. And one is like you are making a design around formulation, means you are not touching their patents and you are using a different formula. When you claim it, the innovator company is notified by the agency that there is certain filer with certain case business. There is a certain filer who has filed the product as a para 4. Then the innovator company, who is already there in the market, they sue you in the court. Then after suing, what you like, then basically then that litigation process comes in. So there are lawyers in place, there are attorneys who are placed at the country level. Those people, then that process includes basically checking all the documents relevant to the product, right from the lab notebooks, from the development reports, or whatever has been submitted to. There is an access, there is a treaty, that confidentiality agreements, that the innovator can access all your documents, and then they make a business case. They see their patents, and then they compare your formula with their formula and their patent claims, and then their people try to make a case, build a case, like, okay, there is a infringement to certain patent, and then they try to debate in the court. And then you, as a generic player, you put forward your side, stating that no, we have not touched your patent is different, my formula is different, and these are the cases, or I am invalidating your patent, like this was already there in the prior art, it was already known to the world. So your patent basis for granting you a patent itself was a like not a right decision. There are certain debates. So like the debate can come using of a certain polymorphic form. The debate can come based on the patent for using a certain particle size, using certain excipient, using certain process, certain excipient at a certain level. So all those things, like maybe a trade dress related litigation, it can be anything, or maybe a packaging related litigation, like someone he has patented a certain pack. So if he's saying like you cannot use this pack, or certain desiccant you cannot use it, but then you have to either, like, if at all you are using the same desiccant or same excipient, then you have to invalidate that. You have to prove that, like, why they cannot have the patent valid, or then you have to, or else you have to come up with a certain other thing, like which can be an equivalent performer for that particular excipient, and then you can produce the same product. So that litigation is handled by definitely the law people, basically law graduates, but IPM, the department IPM, intellectual property management, those people definitely help them making the write up, like what are the patents, how is our patent case, what we are calling as launch relevant and launch limiting patent, which we are invalidating, which we are trying to, and there after the and few litigations are few litigations get settled, few litigations do not get settled, few litigations are settled outside the court, few litigation you lose. If you lose the litigation, then all the time invested in the litigation process by the innovator company, there is a huge penalty. I have seen companies paying 3,000 crores, 6,000 crore rupees as penalties, 9,000 crores as a penalty. I have seen and there can be a one company versus group of companies. Like if there are three generic companies filing the same product with certain what you can say justification, and if all of them lose, then all of them end up paying hefty amounts to the innovator company. So that litigation generally goes the same way is shown in the courts. It is always it involves like objection overruled, objection sustained. There is a limited time frame where you have to you can ask the questions to the party, to the representative of the company. It's an interesting business, I tell you, and it's a very tense situation also at times. I have not attended any litigation so far. Mostly technical people, they go as a representative from the company sides, because if at all it is relevant for the most of the objections on the are on the technical fronts only. So this way it goes. I added few more points in the question, but I thought probably the audience will like to hear more about that. Dela.
Yes, exactly, sir. Um, so I think the questions are all over. Cooking has been a question. Okay. Um, Thank you very much, Mr. Amit Shivlik, for sharing your knowledge with our students on project management in pharmaceutical industry. Thank you very much for answering all the questions and doubts related to the topic, as well as related to the career. I also extend a heartfelt thanks to our principal, Dr. Savita Tauro, and all the professors of this institute for their constant support and encouragement for the students. A big thank you to you all.
All the
And
best to all of you. It was a nice experience. It was first of its kind of experience for me, but it was indeed it was a nice experience. Thanks to your management. All the best to your institution. All the best to all of your students, all your MPharm students, for all the best for their aspirations, and please keep good health. It's a tough time. It's a survival time. So please be strong with your family members. Please help. We are we are called as healthline workers. We as a pharmacists, though we have not, you people do not have degrees in hand, but still you owe to the society. You have certain responsibilities, whatever you can do as a part of spreading the awareness, not the just forwarded jokes on COVID. The situation is very bad. Being a Mumbaikars or Maharashtrians, you people are seeing it very closely. So please spread the awareness in the society. As a pharmacist, it's our duty. So yeah.
Yes, sir. As our sincere appreciation to you, sir, for your contribution and effort, I'm happy to present a certificate of appreciation to you.
Thank you.
So can you see this?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, a big thank you once again to all of you who are attending this webinar. I hope you have learned something new, and I hope you have enjoyed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you have been in the session.